Welcome back to GH Spoilers channel. Today we will learn about the issue surrounding Congressman Drew Cordain's potential impeachment and the mounting scandals that threaten to end his political career. The political landscape of Port Charles is witnessing unprecedented turbulence as Congressman Drew Cordain faces what many are calling the beginning of his inevitable downfall. The once respected politician now stands at a precarious crossroads, with multiple controversies converging to create a perfect storm that could result in his impeachment. The impending political fallout. Drew Cordain's congressional career appears to be hanging by a thread as multiple scandals have begun to surface simultaneously. Political analysts across Port Charles are speculating that these controversies could trigger impeachment proceedings against the congressman who once presented himself as a paragon of virtue and integrity. The pressure mounting against Drew isn't coming from a single direction but rather from a constellation of poor decisions and questionable behavior. His colleagues in Congress have reportedly begun distancing themselves from him, recognizing the potential toxicity of maintaining close associations with someone whose reputation is rapidly deteriorating in the public eye. When politicians lose their allies, they often lose their power shortly thereafter, remarked one political consultant familiar with Port Charles politics. Drew's isolation in the political sphere is becoming increasingly apparent, and that's typically the first sign of an impending downfall. Curtis Ashford's damaging exposé. Perhaps the most immediate threat to Drew's political survival comes in the form of a scathing article being orchestrated by Curtis Ashford. This explosive exposé threatens to lay bare all of Drew's recent indiscretions and abuses of power, presenting them to the public in what promises to be a devastating takedown piece. The article, which is expected to be published in a major Port Charles newspaper, will reportedly detail how Drew has neglected his congressional duties while pursuing personal vendettas and romantic entanglements. Sources close to Curtis indicate that the piece has been meticulously researched, with multiple witnesses and documents supporting its damning conclusions. Curtis has been gathering information for weeks, revealed an insider. He's approached this like a professional investigator, leaving no stone unturned. The article won't just be opinion, it will be backed by substantial evidence that could prove impossible for Drew to refute. The Cordain crypt controversy. Adding fuel to the political fire is the recent incident at the Cordain family crypt, which has evolved from a private family matter into a public relations disaster. Emma Drake's video recording outside the mausoleum has gone viral, showcasing what appears to be Drew abusing his congressional authority to settle personal scores. The footage clearly demonstrates Drew's involvement in having Tracy Cordain arrested, an action that many viewers have interpreted as a gross misuse of political power. Legal experts have begun questioning whether Drew's actions constitute an ethical violation that could trigger congressional ethics investigations. When elected officials use their position to target family members in personal disputes, it crosses a fundamental line, explained a former ethics committee member. The video evidence makes it difficult for Drew to claim this was anything other than a vindictive use of his influence. The scandalous romance. Perhaps most damaging to Drew's public image is his controversial relationship with Willow Corinthos, the wife of his nephew Michael Corinthos. This romantic entanglement has raised eyebrows throughout Port Charles, particularly given the timing. Michael is currently receiving treatment for severe burns at a specialized clinic, unable to defend his marriage. The optics of Drew moving Willow and her children into his home while Michael recovers have been particularly problematic. Community members have expressed outrage at what they perceive as Drew taking advantage of his nephew's vulnerable situation. "There's something particularly distasteful about pursuing your injured nephew's wife," commented a longtime Port Charles resident. Even in a town that's seen its share of scandals, this crosses a line that many find difficult to accept. Social media has been ablaze with criticism of this arrangement, with hashtags calling for Drew's resignation trending regularly. The public sentiment appears to be turning decisively against the congressman, creating a groundswell of opposition that could ultimately prove insurmountable. Tracy Cordain's potential revenge. While Drew initially celebrated Tracy Cordain's arrest following the crypt incident, political observers now suggest this victory may prove Pyrrhic. Tracy, a formidable adversary with deep connections throughout Port Charles, appears positioned to have the last laugh as Drew's political career crumbles. Tracy's influence extends far beyond what Drew may have anticipated, and sources close to the Cordain matriarch suggest she has been quietly working behind the scenes to ensure Drew faces maximum consequences for his actions against her. Tracy Cordain doesn't forget, and she certainly doesn't forgive, noted a family associate. She's playing a long game here, and Drew may have severely underestimated her capacity for strategic retaliation. The transformation of Drew Cordain. As pressure mounts and Drew's political career faces increasing jeopardy, psychological experts have expressed concern about how these developments might affect his personality and behavior. There are worrying indications that Drew, already displaying troubling tendencies, could evolve into an even more sinister character if his congressional career implodes. When individuals who crave power and control suddenly lose their position, they often compensate by becoming more extreme in other areas of their life, explained a behavioral psychologist. Drew's response to political failure could potentially manifest as increasingly dangerous or manipulative behavior. This potential dark evolution has many in Port Charles concerned, particularly those who have already experienced Drew's vindictive side. If impeachment does occur, the aftermath could reveal an even more dangerous version of Drew Cordain. The path to impeachment. The mechanics of congressional impeachment are complex, but political analysts suggest Drew's situation checks many of the necessary boxes. The combination of ethics violations, neglect of duties, and public scandal creates a compelling case for removal from office. The process would likely begin with formal ethics investigations, potentially followed by committee hearings where evidence of misconduct would be presented. Given the mounting evidence against Drew, including Emma's video and the forthcoming exposé, such proceedings could move relatively quickly by congressional standards. When there's clear evidence and bipartisan disgust, impeachment processes can accelerate, noted a political science professor. Drew appears to have alienated colleagues on both sides of the aisle, which removes many of the political obstacles that typically slow such proceedings. As Port Charles watches this political drama unfold, one thing seems increasingly certain: Drew Cordain's days as a congressman may be numbered, and the consequences of his downfall could reverberate throughout the community for months to come. Next, we will learn about the issue of Lucas Jones potentially finding new love while multiple Port Charles residents face life-altering challenges and shocking revelations that could forever change the landscape of their relationships. Lucas Jones' romantic prospects. The medical professional and beloved Port Charles resident, Lucas Jones, appears to be at a crossroads in his romantic life. After enduring the tumultuous relationship with Brad Cooper, which included deception, prison time, and heartbreak, Lucas finds himself unexpectedly drawn to a mysterious newcomer who's recently arrived in town. This handsome stranger, rumored to be connected to General Hospital's newest cardiology department expansion, has caught Lucas' attention during what sources describe as a chance encounter in the hospital cafeteria. Witnesses report an immediate chemistry between the two, with animated conversation lasting well beyond Lucas' scheduled break time. The spark between them was undeniable, shared a hospital staff member who observed their interaction. It's been so long since we've seen Lucas smile like that, genuinely, without that shadow of pain behind his eyes. However, this potential new beginning comes with complications. Brad Cooper, despite their troubled history, has reportedly been making overtures suggesting he hasn't completely accepted their relationship's end. Sources close to Brad indicate he's been inquiring about Lucas' schedule and has even attempted to arrange accidental meetings at locations Lucas frequents. Brad's not the type to gracefully bow out, explained a mutual acquaintance. He's always believed he and Lucas share something special that transcends their problems. Seeing Lucas move on would be devastating to him. This developing triangle raises questions about whether Lucas can truly embrace a new relationship while Brad remains determined to rekindle their connection. The emotional weight of their history. Particularly the baby swap scandal that initially tore them apart, continues to cast a long shadow over Lucas' attempts to move forward. Christina's concern for Sonny. Meanwhile, across town, Christina Corinthos Davis finds herself increasingly worried about her father's well-being. The perceptive daughter of mob boss Sonny Corinthos has noticed subtle changes in her father's behavior: increased fatigue, occasional shortness of breath, and uncharacteristic moments of distraction during conversations. These observations have led Christina to suspect something serious might be affecting Sonny's health, though her attempts to discuss these concerns have been consistently deflected with practiced ease by the Port Charles power player. Sonny's reluctance to acknowledge any vulnerability has always been a defining characteristic, particularly with his children whom he strives to protect from worry. Christina has always been exceptionally intuitive about her father, revealed a family insider. Even as a child, she could sense his moods and concerns before anyone else. This time, her instincts are telling her something significant is being hidden. Her suspicions appear well-founded, as medical sources confirm Sonny has been quietly consulting with cardiology specialists regarding concerning test results. The specifics remain confidential, but the frequency of these appointments suggests a potentially serious cardiac condition requiring ongoing monitoring and possible intervention. The situation may come to a head sooner than expected, as Sonny's determination to shield his daughter from the truth about his heart issues could be rendered moot by his own body's limitations. Sources close to the family suggest a cardiac episode may occur in Christina's presence, forcing a confrontation about his health that neither father nor daughter is prepared to handle. Sonny's always believed strength means shouldering burdens alone, noted a longtime associate. Learning to accept help and acknowledge vulnerability might be his greatest challenge yet, one that Christina could help him navigate if he allows it. Jen Sidwell's mysterious agenda. The arrival of enigmatic figure Jen Sidwell in Port Charles has raised numerous questions, particularly regarding his unusual fixation on former District Attorney Alexis Davis. His recent interaction with Alexis, during which he deliberately showed her the dagger connected to her mother's murder, has sent shockwaves through those aware of the encounter. Sidwell's background remains shrouded in mystery, with preliminary investigations revealing inconsistencies in his claimed history and credentials. His knowledge of Alexis's past, particularly details about her mother's death that weren't widely publicized, suggests either extensive research or a personal connection to events that Alexis herself has struggled to fully process. The dagger revelation wasn't random, explained a source familiar with the interaction. It was calculated to provoke a specific emotional response from Alexis. The question is why? What does Sidwell gain from reopening this particular wound? Theories about Sidwell's motivations range from the possibility of an elaborate framing scheme, perhaps positioning Alexis as a suspect in a contemporary crime by establishing a psychological connection to past violence, to a more personal vendetta related to her legal career or family history. Psychological experts consulted about the interaction note the deliberate nature of trauma triggering, suggesting Sidwell may be attempting to destabilize Alexis emotionally before proceeding with a larger plan. The specific focus on her mother's murder weapon indicates an intimate knowledge of what would most effectively unsettle the normally composed attorney. When someone deliberately introduces an object of profound trauma into a conversation, they're typically setting the stage for something more significant, commented a criminal psychologist. This appears to be merely the opening move in a much more complex game. As Sidwell continues to operate in Port Charles, those close to Alexis have expressed growing concern about his intentions and the potential danger he represents, not just legally, but emotionally and possibly physically as well. Brooklyn and Dante's search for answers. The revelation of Brooklyn Cordain's long-kept secret that she gave birth to Dante Falconeri's child as a teenager and placed the baby for adoption without informing him has created seismic ripples throughout Port Charles. Now, both biological parents find themselves confronting Lois Cerullo, seeking clarity about the circumstances surrounding their son's adoption and current whereabouts. Brooklyn, still reeling from having her carefully guarded secret exposed by Lulu Spencer, approaches her mother with a complex mixture of anger, hurt, and desperate hope. Sources close to the Cordain family reveal that Brooklyn feels doubly betrayed, first by her mother's handling of the teenage pregnancy, and now by the possibility that Lois has maintained information about their son while watching Brooklyn struggle with the weight of her secret for years. "This isn't just about finding answers anymore," shared a confidant of Brooklyn. "It's about confronting the web of decisions made by others that shaped the course of her life when she was too young to fully understand the consequences." Dante's participation in this confrontation adds another layer of complexity. The detective, known for his commitment to justice and truth, now finds himself in the unusual position of investigating his own past. His professional training in interrogation techniques contrasts sharply with the deeply personal nature of the information he seeks, creating an emotional tightrope that those close to him say he's struggling to navigate. Meanwhile, Martin Gray has reportedly assured Lois that Giovanni Palmieri's name wasn't mentioned in the documents discovered by Lulu, a detail that raises questions about whether Lois has been actively monitoring the situation and taking precautions to maintain secrecy. This legal intervention suggests Lois may have more to hide than simply the identity of Brooklyn and Dante's son. The involvement of legal counsel at this stage indicates Lois anticipated this day might come, noted a legal expert familiar with adoption cases. The question becomes whether her preparations were meant to protect Brooklyn, Dante, their child, or herself. As this emotional confrontation unfolds, the potential for additional revelations looms large. Sources suggest the adoption circumstances may have involved irregularities that could complicate any attempt to locate the now adult child, adding yet another layer to an already complex situation. Carly's romantic dilemma. Amidst the chaos engulfing Port Charles, Carly Spencer finds herself contemplating a second chance with Jack Brennan, a prospect that has her closest friends expressing both support and concern. The relationship, which began with promising chemistry but encountered complications related to Jack's professional responsibilities, now stands at a crossroads that requires Carly to weigh her heart against her hard-earned wisdom about relationships. Those in Carly's inner circle report that Jack has been making consistent efforts to demonstrate his genuine interest, sending thoughtful messages and respecting her need for space while still making his feelings clear. These gestures have not gone unnoticed by Carly, who sources say has been carefully considering what a renewed relationship might look like. After everything Carly's been through, she approaches relationships with understandable caution, explained a longtime friend. Jack represents something different from her past patterns, which is both appealing and frightening for her. Complicating matters is Jack's apparent determination to convince Carly that his interest is exclusive and sincere. Insiders report multiple instances where Jack has made it clear, sometimes subtly, sometimes directly, that Carly occupies a unique place in his life and affections. "The way he looks at her when he thinks no one's watching tells you everything," observed a Metro court staff member. "That man is completely captivated by her, and he's not trying to hide it anymore." As Carly contemplates this potential reconciliation, she's reportedly been seeking counsel from trusted friends while also reflecting on lessons from her past relationships. The decision represents more than simply whether to date Jack, it symbolizes her willingness to risk vulnerability again after multiple heartbreaks. Elizabeth and Lucky's relationship revival. Longtime Port Charles residents Elizabeth Baldwin and Lucky Spencer have been attempting to carve out precious moments of privacy to explore their rekindled connection, a challenging endeavor given their busy schedules and the town's notorious rumor mill. Their history, which spans decades and includes both profound love and devastating heartbreak, provides a rich foundation for what sources describe as a cautious but meaningful reconnection. "They're approaching this with eyes wide open," revealed someone close to the couple. "Neither is rushing to define what's happening between them, but there's an undeniable comfort and chemistry that's survived everything they've been through." Elizabeth, whose nursing career at General Hospital keeps her schedule unpredictable, has reportedly been making deliberate efforts to create space for Lucky in her life. These efforts include arranging childcare coverage and adjusting shifts when possible, small but significant indicators of her investment in exploring where their relationship might lead. Lucky, meanwhile, has been observed bringing coffee to Elizabeth during her breaks and occasionally picking up her children from activities, gestures that haven't gone unnoticed by hospital staff and mutual friends. These actions suggest a man reintegrating himself not just into Elizabeth's life but into the family structure they once shared.